children. I hope you all are doing good and staying at home. I miss you a lot. By the way, I sent you some notes. I hope you can see the heading. The second 2A, second lesson, mass spectrometry and relative masses of an atom, isotopes and molecules. Right? To enter the lesson, I would like to recall your memory about relative atomic mass. So, relative atomic mass, and you can call it AR2, right? How do you define this one? I'm quite sure if I ask this question, you will at once, you all shout and say, teacher, we know the definition, and you will start to say the definition. But I will say the definition. Right. Let's summarize this one. An average mass, important point, an average mass of the element an average mass of the element compared to 1/12 of mass of an atom of carbon 12. Because of my sari, it starts to draw lines on the board. I'm sorry. Right. Let's see whether you can by heart this relative atomic mass. This is a very simple thing, but we have to by heart, and don't think that the people, those who make the papers, they'll ask, okay children, define the relative atomic mass. No, this is to get an idea, right? So let's say together, I hope you will say, an average mass of the element compared to 1/12 of mass of an atom of carbon 12. I'm sorry, the pattern of my letters because of this smart board, not like the small, the whiteboard is quite comfortable for me, but anyway, I hope you can understand the letters, right? That's it. Right now, in the 19th century, I'm not going to take you to the past, but I want to explain you the real situation. In the 19th century, the scientists who were eager to know about these elements, atoms and all, they gave a value of an atom of mass relatively. They found the hydrogen is the lightest atom, and they gave the mass as 1, right? So hydrogen, they gave the value as 1, and oxygen, you know it's 16, and if I write for sulfur, you know it's 32. This 32 and 16 may get relatively to hydrogen, right? Eventually, you know, scientists, they keep on their investigations and experiments and all. So they found the word isotopes. See whether you can remember this word. Yes, it's not a big thing, you know this, right? Isotopes. Whenever they come across with these things, they came to this turning point. What are isotopes? Recall your memory. Yes, there are some. Now in the same element there can be many isotopes. You think about lithium. Lithium has 2 isotopes. How does isotope take place? Here we know if there is a value here, we will say A and B. A points you the atomic number. See? And B shows you the mass number. The difference of the mass number in the particular element brings out isotopes. In the same element, you have the atoms with different mass numbers. If you are telling it in another way, they have different number of neutrons, right? That makes the reasons for making isotopes in the same element, right? So in this part of the lesson, we want to talk about relative isotopic mass. What is this relative isotopic mass? Let's give a definition. Relative isotopic mass. Let's by heart the definition. An individual what? I think I have given you the definition in the book. Anyway, an individual mass of an atom in a particular isotope compared to 1/12 of mass of atom of carbon 12. Right, see whether you can remember the things that you have learnt. Let's recall it. Right, relative isotopic mass. An individual mass of an atom in particular isotope compared to 1/12 of mass of atom of carbon 12. We get these values, you should remember relatively. And why are we using carbon 12? Because carbon also have isotopes. Carbon has isotopes, but we are considering the relatively to the mass of an atom of carbon 12. That is the definition for the relative isotopic mass. Right? In the same note, I have pointed you out, I have given you a sum. Yes? Right. In the sum, I have given some decimals, but right now, I would like to take whole numbers because it's easy for me to simplify here. But remember, for the exam, you won't get the whole numbers, you will get with the decimals, and you should simplify them, and you have to keep for the first decimal, second decimal or third decimal according to the way that they ask, right? The question is how to find the question I have given, how to find the relative atomic mass if you have the percentage abundance and the isotopic mass. I'll take lithium. I just wrote, I wanted to show lithium has two isotopes, that's why I wrote A and B, because they have different neutrons. In this thing, I will give you the relative isotopic mass as 6, 7. Relative isotopic mass. Okay. Remember, I told you these could be decimals, right? Then I will give you the percentage abundance as 8 and 90. Now, I want to drag your attention here. When it comes to percentage abundance, the total should be 100. Then you have to have an idea. This is 8 point something. This is 90 point something, which makes 100. Right? How do you find the relative atomic mass of lithium? Relative, let's write simply. Relative atomic mass of lithium. Okay, here we go. We consider this separately. 6 into 8, this is one set to simplify. The other one 7 into 90 divisible by 100. Then 6 into 8, 48. 7 into 0, 0, 9 into 10, 63 divisible by 100. Okay. Then 8, 7 and 6 divisible by 100. So, there are two decimals because of these two zeros. So, your final answer will be, let me write it here, 6.78. What did you find? Relative atomic mass of lithium. Right? Okay. See whether you can understand that. This part, of course, before this you had theory part, so that it should be studied by heart. Right. Then I am going to clean the board. Right. Then I want to explain you about the mass spectrometer. Right. This is too sensitive. Right. Okay. Mass spectrometer. Oh, that is E. Okay. In the note I have given you about the mass spectrometer, but I would like to explain it for your convenience. What is this mass spectrometer? You know the word mass. Actually, children, mass spectrometer measures the masses of atoms and molecules. Mass spectrometer measures the masses of the atoms and molecules, right? Then at the same time, this mass spectrometer turns the particles to positive particles. Also, it calculates it shows the relative abundance too, right? Okay, I will draw a rough sketch of a mass spectrometer, then you will come to know the shape, It's okay, fine. Right, now look at the board. There are chambers. There's a ion detector. Let me hope you can see the board. Electric field. There's another special area, that is magnetic field. Oh, it's ugly. Let me change. Right. Okay, this is a rough sketch of the mass spectrometer. Right. You should understand, now we know the purpose of using this one, and you should understand what sort of sample is injecting here. We should use a gaseous sample here. Now I know you have a question. You will ask, teacher, why are we using a gaseous sample? The answer is, when it is gaseous, the particles can roam, can move everywhere in the spectrometer. That is the reason we are using the gaseous sample. So now the first step begins here. We are injecting the vaporized sample here, and there is a chamber of ionization chamber, right? Now the particle starts to move. Shall I use another color for you, for your convenience? Is it yellow? Good. See? Right. The particle starts to move. When the particle comes here, what will happen? Because of this electric field, the positive particle, I told you we are using positive particles here. This mass spectrometer turns the particle into positive particles, right? Okay. So what will happen? Because of this electric field, this positive particles they'll get the acceleration. They start to accelerate. So they come here, and whenever they come to this magnetic field, what will happen? They'll start to deflect. So because of this deflection, that deflection take place due to this reason. Mass to charge ratio. If you don't want to write words, you can use this way. The deflection take place due to mass to charge ratio. If the particles with high mass, they have to if the particles with high mass to charge ratio has less deflection. The particles which have mass to charge low, they have low deflection. Got it? When the particles have a large mass, the mass to charge ratio brings that deflection less. So you can use the vice versa. Right. So if the particles have the same charge, same weight, they'll get the value as +1. If the particles that we are talking right now have the same weight or same charge, we'll give the charge as +1. Right? Eventually it will proceed to the ion detector. It will proceed to ion detector. Now you may ask question, teacher, all the particles are going to meet this ion detector. No. Why? The particles which have enough mass to charge ratio, the word I am using, enough. The particles which have enough mass to charge ratio goes to meet the ion detector. Right? Now for example, you think one atom has a mass of 28, example, right? If it is 28, the detector will give the value as +1. Shall I clean? Right. Okay. If the mass of an atom is 28, the detector will give the charge as +1. You think about 56. 56 means twice 28. So what could be the charge? It should be +2. Right? Now focus very well about the mass spectrometer, about the meter, about the what you call the process, and how we get the values. Right. In the last part of your note, I have given you how to find the mass of this relative mass of this diatomic molecules too. Now when I ask diatomic molecules, you may say chlorine, bromine, oxygen, right? You may say more, right? I will take, for your syllabus they have given you chlorine. By the way, you can use the other diatomic molecules. So I'll take chlorine. Chlorine has two natural isotopes. They are the stable steps, right? So if I use a graph, mass to charge versus relative, we'll write relative abundance, relative abundance. Right? I hope you have seen, whenever you see chlorine, it has mentioned 35 and 37. I am talking about the natural isotopes of chlorine here, therefore I have written 2 here. So this is 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Right. Here you can see 35. I want to show you, that's why I drew a large line here, and this is 37. Right, let's wait for a while. Right, 10, 20, 30, 40. Look at that. This is 37. So whenever we draw this in the graph, the chlorine 35 isotope can be presented now. I am drawing the recorded results of the mass spectrometer, right? So if we if we measure this thrice, what will be the value of chlorine 37 isotope? If chlorine 37 isotope is 1, 35 is thrice, right? Now here we can take approximate atomic mass. I gave you that 2 in your note, approximate relative atomic mass. Okay, we are going to find that relative atomic mass. So what do we do? See, 35, how many times when we compared? See, 1, 2, 3, thrice. One set with isotope 37 into how many times? 1 time. Divisible by 1, 2, 3 with this 4. Then let's 3 into 5, 15, 1 remaining, 10 with this 37 divisible by 4. So the total is 12, 4, 1 divisible by 4. 35.5. Whenever I write 35.5, you have some familiar, some sort of a well-known number with chlorine. Whenever you do the calculation for relative atomic masses, you have used this value. You write hydrogen equals 1, sulfur 32, chlorine 35.5, right? In some of the students, they don't care about this 0.5 and they try to get a value by considering the whole numbers. But children, sometimes this 0.5 also very useful, and don't try to neglect that. If they ask you to neglect, that's fine, but from your side you should not do that. If they have given you few decimal places, you have to work out because you have calculators, right? If they ask you to keep for the first decimal, second decimal or third decimal, then you can write your value, right? Okay. This is the explanation of your note that I have sent you. I hope you can understand this well, and I'm sorry that I can't see you and I can't speak to you lively. Anyway, I hope to see you soon. Stay safe and I wish you good luck to you all. God bless you all. Bye.